I got interested in engineering when I was at quite a young age. My father was an engineer and he used to get all these journals. Being an engineer, I thought was a very fascinating thing because then you can build things. Then just after I had finished my GCA A-levels, which was in 1979, I discovered a new thing, which was these computers. And at that time I had never seen a computer, but I went to a bookshop and I found a book on basic programming. And then for about 3 months or so, I went for these computer classes and learned how to program in BASIC using these microcomputer, these very small computers which were very interesting and not very expensive also. Unfortunately at that time there was no computer course at Moratuwa, and I graduated in 1986, and then it was very interesting that almost at the same time the university decided to start a department of computer science, and in fact I became the first staff member of this new department, because at that time the department was started and I was the first person to be recruited there. There in the US, people have not only got computers, they have something called the internet. And what does this internet do? You can talk to people anywhere in the world. Some of the people who were studying there, like Dr. Nimal Ratnayaka, had a shortwave radio, and he was listening to shortwave radio broadcast, and he used to send us these news items about Sri Lanka, which we found very interesting. We started exchanging news information, and then so there were several hundred people who were getting this news and talking to each other, and we called it SLNet, Sri Lanka Network. This was one of the first social networks among Sri Lankans. So when we were trying to figure out how do we connect and how do we send email, we saw many countries were using these 2-letter codes like .UK for United Kingdom, .JP for Japan, and so on. So we asked, okay, how do we get this code? And they said, oh, there's a person called John Postel. If you send him an email, he will tell you how to get a code. So I wrote to him and said, okay, we would like to be able to use a code LK for Sri Lanka. How do we get about it? And basically he handed over the code then and there almost to me. So this was in about 1990. The next step was to actually get a internet connection to Sri Lanka. Several universities, Colombo, Open University, and several others wrote a grant proposal to set up an internet. So we talked to Sri Lanka Telecom. They also realized what this internet was, and then we managed to get a very small connection between initially 3 universities, Moratuwa University, Colombo University, and Open University, which were all fairly close by near Colombo, and that was running by about 1994. So that's how we started this thing called Lanka Education and Research Network, or LEARN. Then sort of by chance I was also working with this Council for Information Technology, CINTEC, and we were trying to see how can we develop internet in Sri Lanka. We set up a website which will have information about the internet, so people can actually come to the internet and use the internet to find out about the internet. And we said, okay, Sri Lanka is a country where people use different languages. They use Sinhala, they use Tamil. We should have information in all these languages. So we asked around and people said, oh, you can use that font, you can use this font. And we were a bit puzzled because we couldn't really understand what all this thing was. And then somebody said, oh, you should use Unicode. I said, okay, we can use that then. So we set up a committee at CINTEC to try to standardize this Unicode. We stuck firm and said, no, this is an international standard. If you want any changes, it can be changed, but it should be based on the international standard. And we succeeded. Now things have changed. Every single website you go to, if a single website, is using Unicode. Nobody uses anything else, right? Zero. So this is what we have achieved. One of the things we try to do is how do we facilitate more people using the internet. We had this Internet Society, Sri Lanka chapter. But we paid maybe a small part in making internet available to everybody and at a very affordable price. In 2013, I was inducted into something called the Internet Hall of Fame to recognize the pioneers of internet in various disciplines, and I was fortunate enough to be recognized as a pioneer in developing internet in Sri Lanka. But I think this is still the beginning. We have just started making internet an integral part of our life. But I think in the next 10 years we will find that using this communication is going to be there for everything. People will not even imagine how they could have lived without having internet. Okay, I think that sort of covers everything. Thank you.